Hey there, lovely people. Welcome to Be Your Best You with Tash and Becky, your go-to hangout for all things spiritual, subconscious, and downright magical. We're here to sprinkle a little mystical wisdom into your everyday life and help you level up your reality.
Picture this as your cosmic coffee date, where we chat about the unseen world, blend in some psychology vibes and stir up the subconscious magic. Get ready to be the queen of your own reality, live a life that lights you up and have a blast doing it.
So grab your latte or your tea and let's dive into another episode of Be Your Best You, where the mystical meets the mundane and your best life awaits.
Cheers to creating magic together.
Let's do this. Welcome back to Be Your Best You with Tash.
And Becky.
Oh, thank you for joining us again for another episode. Right.
Yeah, here we go.
Here we go. Let's do this.
Let's do it. What are we doing, Tash?
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about my beliefs on mental illness. Okay, the reason why we're making such a big deal about this is because it could be classed as controversial by some.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I understand that.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's very important for me to share this.
Mm.
And it's something that I've believed for quite a while now, isn't it? But I am working more and more with clients who have mental illnesses. It's almost like I was absorbing all the information and I was reading everything and I was understanding things, and I mean from every angle, you know me, like, you know, spiritual, psychological, like just scientific, medical, all of it. And I came to this kind of idea of how I see mental illness and people and how it all works. And I had a very clear idea of what that was. But then I started having people come into my heart to work with me who actually had mental illnesses, diagnosed mental illnesses. And it, honestly, like at first it would kind of make me feel a little bit, and I'm really only a little bit, like a little bit, hesitant. No, what's the word? Not hesitant, because I would say yes to help them. Can't think of the word. I just felt a little bit anxious is too strong a word, but you know, like that, just because I was like, this is the real deal now. I kind of almost have to put my money where my mouth is. And then I've been working with these people and they're proving my theories to be true. And this is something that I feel like really, really strongly and passionately about. And I do believe that it's one of my missions here to get this message across. And like when I've talked to you about it in the past, I've actually got really emotional, haven't I?
Yeah, you have.
I just like cry when I say it because I feel so strongly about it. So, and the reason I feel so strongly about it is because I can see that it's about giving people hope, I think. And I can't bear for people to think that they are stuck with who they are or how their life is, be in a certain way. And that goes for, you know, I've said this before in other podcasts, haven't I? I'm not just directly talking about mental illness here. This is how I feel so strongly about everything. You know, you are not, whether it's you've got a mental illness or whether it's just a character trait, like, you know, you think you have no confidence, or you think you're shy, or you don't think you're smart. You know, anything, any character trait, any identity that you've given yourself, mental illness or not, I truly and 100% believe that that is not what you're destined to have. That is not who you are, and you can change it at any time, even if that seems completely unattainable for you. But mental illnesses has a bit, when you start saying, you know, people might say, oh, okay, yeah, I could learn to not be shy, or I could learn to boost my confidence, because we all know there's a certain societal belief that yes, you can do that. And so you accept it. And so it happens. But when it comes to mental illness, there's a bit of a stigma attached to it, isn't there? You know, because there is a belief in society that, well, you have a mental illness. That's who you are.
Yeah.
It's kind of stuck with it.
Yeah.
You can take medication. You got a medical condition. You know, you can have some medication. You can manage it. But sorry, you're destined to have that for the rest of your life. And I do not believe in that at all. And now I can say I have proof and evidence myself firsthand from people that I have worked with. Yeah. And if I can do nothing else in this episode but open people's minds to at least being able to comprehend that there might be a way for, if you have a mental illness yourself, been diagnosed with mental illness yourself, or someone you know, or your family. I don't know whether you can tell from my voice, but I don't even like saying mental illness. I don't like saying the word. No. But if someone in your family has it, that there is hope. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be that way forever. And you're not broken. They're not broken. No. There are reasons for it, and those reasons can be addressed fairly simply, as long as you are open to seeing it a different way. That is the first step. Yeah. As I always say, is having that conscious awareness, that awareness. And that is why I say my own, if I only have one hope for this podcast, it's that I could potentially bring your awareness to this. Yeah. Or help you to bring somebody else you know's awareness to this. Yeah. So yeah.
That would be amazing, wouldn't it? If just one person was just on the edge of being ready to do some kind of therapy that you do, that you could just, the penny would drop and think, okay, so there could be another way. I mean, some people just aren't ready. Maybe will they ever be ready? I don't know.
And that's their journey, isn't it?
Yeah. Hopefully, well, the more people like you that do work like this, the better, isn't it? Because like you said, you've now got the proof, you know, it's all sort of coming down to the same things. And actually, is it any different when you talk to someone with, say, the mental health? Is it any different to someone who comes in with with, you know, like you say, oh, I've got no confidence, or I'm shy, self-worth? No. Does it all come down to the same thing?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It does. It's no different.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you said that, because when I said, you know, when I started getting the clients come in that have a diagnosis, let's say, I don't want to use mental illness anymore, like have a diagnosis. Yeah. And I said I got a little bit anxious, because of everything that comes with that. And then I found myself, and I had to laugh and catch myself, because I found myself thinking of them as different. Yeah. And I was like, Tash, you're doing the thing that you're telling people, you know, not to do, which is see them as being different, or having, you know, something wrong with them that is going to make it harder for me to help them. And so I had to start. And again, that comes from a deep societal belief in me that is, and also don't forget me going to med school, the beliefs that I aligned with then was that mental illness was a mental illness. Yeah. You know, like there's something wrong with your brain. You've got a chemical imbalance, you know, you've got it, I haven't got it, that type of thing. You need medication and manage it. Manage it, you know. And so I have had to still fight with those beliefs sometimes, but very quickly, obviously, because I'm very used to doing this kind of challenging my own beliefs work now. It's something I do. I can catch it. And I was like, right, okay, no. See these people as any other person. And actually what I did is, when they sit in my chair, I say, I want you to forget your diagnosis, whether that's OCD, bipolar, depression, ADHD. I'm not interested. Tell me how it affects your life. Right. Tell me how it's making you act. You know, how is it manifesting in your life? Because, and then I would explain to them how I view mental health diagnoses and illness. And
I bet that's an eye-opener to them.
100%.
When they hear you say from your perspective what that means.
Well, actually, I had someone come to me, and she hadn't decided, so she had bipolar, and she was under a psychiatrist, obviously. The psychiatrist couldn't help her. And he said, maybe you need some, well, actually she had to ask is there somewhere else I can see? Can I have some other help? And then he referred her to a psychologist.
Right.
And then at the same time as she made an appointment with a psychologist, she contacted me.
Right.
And said, can we just have a chat? So I said, yeah, of course. She was open with me and told me this was her situation and that she was speaking to a few people. Yeah. And I said, great. I said, that's brilliant. I'm so glad you're doing that. Yeah. Because there is someone for everyone. I said, let me tell you how I work and how I see the world, what I'm going to be doing with you and how I'm going to look at you. I said, you might listen to it and think that I'm bonkers and choose not to work with me. Yeah. And the psychologist will say something different to you and you might resonate with that more, you know, because we're on different levels. Anyway, so I told her and I explained to her how I saw it, how I saw her and how I would go about helping her. And she, you know, kind of went away. And then 4 days later, she contacted me and said, I'd like to start working with you, please. And I was just like, oh, that was really, that really excited me because I thought she had no idea. So I was telling her all this stuff and I could see like her mind was blown. she wasn't in this world. No. She knew nothing about it, never had hypnotherapy, didn't know really what hypnotherapy was, certainly didn't have the views that yet still there's something in there that resonated with her enough to make her say, do you know what, I'm going to take a chance on you out of everything else. Just made sense to her. And I can't remember why I started saying that. Oh, because you said, just them hearing how I say. Yes. Yeah, that's right.
That must be such an eye-opener to them.
There you go. That was the example.
To the point where it changed her mind and decided to work with you.
And I think what it is, Beck, is that it gives people hope. Yeah. It gives people hope because they think, I'm not stuck this way.
You don't have that, do you? And, you know, when you go to the psychologist or whatever, it's almost like an ongoing thing, isn't it? It's not... Well, not my personal experience, but looking at like my son's experience with one, there's no actual, you know, like plan put in place, no goal you're working towards. Whereas you have, I think that would be really useful, you know, how you put a program in place and you work towards these different things each time.
And there's an end goal.
There's an end goal, exactly. Whereas it seems like, maybe not all psychologists, but like our experience was just like you just manage. Again, it was just like a management tool.
That's it.
It wasn't doing anything.
Yes,
it was just keeping him afloat.
Yeah,
and you could see why some people have to have a therapist or psychologist forever but you never actually getting rid of the problem.
No, and that's it. And like, you know, within 3 sessions with me, you can start seeing real noticeable changes. Yeah. You know, forget by the time you get to the, you know, the end of your sessions after 3.5 months or 6.5 months, whatever you choose to do. But most of the people will do the 3.5 month program for that. And so I suppose we've done this whole intro, but I still haven't actually explained how I see mental health illnesses. Yeah. Okay. So let's just dive into it. Okay. Yeah. I don't particularly agree with mental health diagnoses. Because when you get a diagnosis, you claim that as your identity. Yeah. And then that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah. And I want to say, like, from the outset, and this is something I say to you when we talk about ADHD, isn't it? Yeah. Sometimes it's nice to have a diagnosis for the person that's dealing with this mental health illness.
True. And thinks they're different
because
doesn't understand themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. Because it can help them understand, help them realise, okay, I'm not alone. Yeah. And then you read all these symptoms, let's say, and then you can go, oh, that's me. You feel like you fit in.
I'm not going mad.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's a reason for why I feel like this. Yeah. And that's nice because we all want that, but it's damaging. Yes. Because that is putting you in a box. It is saying to you that, yes, there is something wrong with you, that you are destined to be this way. Because then the problem is once you get this diagnosis, no one ever says that there's a cure. No. That's it. You're done. You're left with that. And sorry, but you have to, you know, we can help you manage it and we can give you medication. But actually, this is how you're going to be for the rest of your life. And that is horrific. Yeah. Because who wants to hear that? Who wants to be told that you're going to have to fight this feeling, the feelings that you're feeling in any diagnosis you get, like in a mental health diagnosis like that. The feelings that you're feeling aren't nice, are they?
No.
They're tough. And so what you have to then think that you have to struggle through life fighting off these feelings, fighting to be positive.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Forever.
Yeah, because that's the box you're in, and you just have to live by those rules, you know. And I think, like you're saying, especially with the children, it's unfortunately necessary to get the diagnosis.
Yes, this is it, isn't it?
Because the schools won't do anything unless you've got the diagnosis and blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, even with, well, I know my child, obviously I can't talk for other people's children, but just mine, I can see also that he is stuck in that box. And because he's a child, and probably a boy as well, he's not looking to step out of it either.
Exactly.
So,
and there's no answers in that box.
No.
Because, you know, and it's not, and I'm not blaming here, I'm not blaming the medical, you know, industry. Like that's what they're taught.
Yeah.
I went to medical school.
Know.
I know. I can tell you firsthand.
Yeah.
I know that. And I truly believe that as well.
Yeah.
Because you're not taught any other way. And I've said this before in the podcast, complementary therapy, especially when, you know, it might be different now. I was in med school, 20 odd years ago. It might be different now. I hope it is, but I don't think it's that different.
No.
But complementary therapy is scoffed at.
Yeah.
Anything that wasn't medicine, you know, scoffed, nonsense, stuff and nonsense.
Yeah.
Which is, now. But, you know, and so, yes, you stick yourself in this box and then you are not opening yourself up to the things that really are going to help you. And it's like, you know, all these mental health diagnoses are in this DSM-5 book. Right. My sister sent me, hang on, I'm going to see if I can find it right now, actually. Yeah. My sister sent me this thing where she was basically saying she was reading in a book, and it was written by a psychiatrist or a psychologist. And he literally said that the DSM-5 that we all use now the doctors all use now to diagnose people with these mental health illnesses, they just sat around in a big circle and went, right, let's give a load of these symptoms. Yep, that one, let's call that bipolar. You know, it was really kind of like that. I just want to see if I can find it. Okay, so I found it. I call it DSM-5. Is it the DSM-4? I can't remember. But anyway, so from 1974 to 1980, this doctor held a series of meetings inside a conference room at Columbia University. And he said they were, by all accounts, chaos. The psychiatrist Spitzer, this is the guy that started it, the psychiatrist he invited would yell over each other. The person with the loudest voice tended to get taken the most seriously. Nobody took minutes. They barely had a typewriter. Someone would yell out the name of a potential mental disorder and a checklist of its overt characteristics. There'd be a cacophony of voices in assent or dissent. And if Spitzer agreed, which he almost always did, he'd hammer it out. And there, on an old typewriter, it would be sealed in stone. And that's how practically every disorder you've ever heard or have been diagnosed with came to be invented, inside that chaotic conference room under the auspices of Robert Spitzer, who was taking his inspiration from checklist pioneers like Bob Hare, so for example. So and this includes post-traumatic stress disorder, borderline personality disorder, ADHD, all of it. Right, so okay, so that's
what we've all been relying on.
Yeah. And so let me tell you now then, having said that, how I see it from everything that I've learned and all of my experiences with my clients. And it's probably nothing that you haven't heard me say before in the other podcasts, but I haven't been referring specifically to mental health illnesses. Okay, so anybody who comes in this chair and sits down, I see the same now, okay? You are perfect. We are all perfect. I'm going to get emotional already. Oh my God. For goodness sake. I was like, before I did this, I was like, don't cry. Get it out. Okay. I hope no one's watching this on YouTube. you are all perfect. You came into this world perfect. And it's only because, and I see everybody who, you know, whether you come into my room or whether it's people that I'm speaking to that are asking for advice, or just people I meet on the streets, my friends, my family, whatever, you're all perfect. You are. And I see you as this like big ball of light.
Yeah.
And when you come down onto earth, which is a tough old place, and you chose to, you know, like go visit our soul contracts episode to hear more about that one. But when you came down to earth, you forget how perfect you are. And then you experience things, and you experience things as early on as in the womb.
Yeah.
You know, like you have experiences you feel, and you make meanings of those things as early in the wombs. Again, I can attest to this because I have experienced it in my client sessions when they regress back to the womb and they feel the emotions of their mum when they're having arguments with their dads, or they feel the emotions of their mum because their mum is at a place where they don't want that baby, and it's got nothing to do with that soul, that perfect soul, but that mum doesn't want that baby at that time because she's in a bad place, and you know, maybe she hasn't got any money, maybe that she's in a bad relationship, but the baby doesn't understand that, the soul in the womb doesn't understand that, it just feels it, and it comes into this world with a belief that they are not wanted, they are not loved, and therefore they are not lovable. And that will plague them for the rest of their lives. It's how they'll see, right? So that perfect little soul in the womb has already got a belief there, a negative limiting belief, let's call it. And then I see it's like a layer that covers over that perfect bright light. And a layer goes on and it dulls it a bit. And then the baby comes out. And then it starts growing up. It starts having experiences. Bear in mind, I've said to you before, we live in a state of hypnosis from 0 to 7. So hypnosis, the state of hypnosis is just a consciousness state, a brainwave state. That means we are super, super susceptible to everything that we take in. We're like little sponges, and we'll absorb it and we'll make it mean something to us. And we all make things mean different things. So which is why we can go through the exact same experience in life, and one person will make one meaning out of it, and it will be a really negative meaning, and they'll take that through with them for the rest of their life, and the other person can go through the exact same experience and it could just wash over them because they'd make it mean something completely different and they wouldn't be affected by that. And similarly, something else could happen and they'd have but that then so whilst you're in this state between 0 and 7 of hypnosis and you're highly susceptible, we know what happens in between the states of 0 and 7. You go to school, you know, you're around your primary carers for the most part, so they have a really big part to play. If you're living in you know, with parents that don't have great relationships, or even that do have great relationships, or that you're in abusive like family dynamics, the list is endless. And it doesn't have to be, like I've said before in the trauma episode, it doesn't have to be big, massive, you know, what we would call big T traumas. The whole point of CPTSD, this complex trauma stuff that goes over a long period of time, is it's the small things, it's the unmet needs that you don't have. You know, maybe your mum and dad having their own like relationship dynamic problems, nothing crazy, but because of that they're both distant from you, and you're not getting the love that you need, or they see the world in their own ways, and so they aren't able to give you what you need as a child. This is all trauma, and again another layer goes over this big shining ball of perfect light that you are. And as you go through childhood, it continues to happen. You continue to make meanings out of things that about you. You take on all these limiting beliefs and you forget more and more of how perfect you are, and you start building this identity up of yourself that says that's who you are, with all these limitations. And not only that, then you'll have within these scenarios that happen to you where you make things mean certain things about yourself, you can then also have traumatic experiences. And as we've spoken before, trauma, it's not about what happens to you, it's about how your body feels and how it responds to it, and that is a trauma. And that's where mental health illness starts. you take on all these things. So it's a mixture. It's those traumatic events that never get finished. This trauma loop never gets to finish. You don't get your needs met. You don't have the understanding that you needed to have at that time. And you hold on to it. Your body holds on to it. It's stored in your body, and it's not dealt with. It's not processed. Like, it doesn't get through. It doesn't move through you. And that, coupled with the limiting beliefs that you start forming about yourself, well, by the time you get into adulthood, and by the way, even after 7, just because you're out of that constant state of hypnosis, you are still suggestible all the time. You're still picking up programming. More and more layers go on, and it just covers up this ball of light, so that you don't. The light is kind of just shining through certain cracks, maybe. But the whole time it's still there. That perfectness is still there. So with the things like the mental illness, like ADHD, OCD, bipolar, borderline personality, all of that, all it is, in my opinion, is unprocessed trauma. And things that have happened to you that you've made mean a certain thing about you, that you're not good enough, that you're not worthy. It's made you fear judgment of other people. It's made you think that you are incapable. You're not good enough to do this, that. There's so many limiting beliefs that we pick up. And the more you practice those things and these behaviors and these thoughts, the deeper it gets. And then the wider it starts manifesting in your whole life. So it could start with one thing back in childhood that's very, very specific and small. And what I see is that it just, over the years and the learnings and the way that you start seeing the world, it just snowballs. And so then the effects manifest in every area of your life, and it's quite unbelievable that you can pin it back to one tiny small thing that you may mean about yourself. So when you have these mental illnesses, and doctors tell you that this is who you are, and you have a chemical imbalance, or your brain's not right, or you've come in different from other, in inverted commas, normal people, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. And I don't buy it because I work with people all the time, and the people with mental health diagnoses, like you said in the beginning, are no different to the people that come in who just want to have help with feeling more positive, or want to boost their confidence. It all comes back down to the same thing. And and the thing is that the thing with the mental illnesses is, somewhere along the lines, it's got too much for them, and then it just sends you into that negative thought spiral. And again, let's go back to what we've said before about this positive, the victim mentality, and the positive thinking. You if you get to a state where you're heavily in this victim mentality, and you have this mental illness, it's really hard to see any otherwise. It's like you said, Harry wanted to have that diagnosis of ADHD because he just wanted to be told that he could be fixed. Please tell. And I'm sure a lot of people with mental health diagnoses feel the same, please just do something to help me. I need someone to give me something or do something that's going to fix me.
And also, not from his point of view, he doesn't want to take responsibility for any of it.
Victim mentality. It comes hand in hand. And this is where it gets,
I know. And it sounds harsh.
It sounds harsh.
And it's like you're telling a little boy he's a teenager now, but when to take responsibility for yourself. And of course, what you do as a parent, I guess, when they are struggling, you take every ounce of responsibility off of them, because you think that's how you're going to help them. Then they do get to teenage years and older teenage years, and you realise they have no personal responsibility for anything. So all you've done is prolong that process and made it harder for them to ever accept any responsibility for their thoughts, because it's become them, hasn't it? It is, like you said, the snowball effect. So then that is them. So to change any of that would be scary to them, because that's what they're comfortable with, isn't it?
And this is coming from someone who you know, you can see this, can't you? You agree with this for someone whose son has a diagnosis.
Yeah.
And we have these conversations quite a lot, don't we? And it's not about dismissing that the problem's very real.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's very,
my
very
goodness. Real. It's, we're not taking, goodness, no. You know, like, I don't like it when people might say, oh, you know, oh, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's in your head.
Yeah, exactly. Of course it exists. But like you say, I mean, what such a lovely way to hear it. And if we could all hear it like that, with such hope, and you have this, and this, but it's okay.
Yeah.
We can remove this. I mean, what a different way to hear it than, oh, yeah, well, you've got ADHD, you've got OCD, we'll get you some antidepressants and...
have some CBT therapy.
Have some CBT, which won't work because, you can't remember anything.
Exactly.
So, but we'll give you that
and
anyway.
You're not in the mental headspace to be able to use those tools that we're giving you.
Exactly. And then eventually you might get some ADHD medication, and then that's your life.
Yeah, and that'll flatten you out.
I mean, can you imagine if every doctor said it how you saw it? Because you're not dismissing the fact that they have all these issues, and they've all manifested into this illness.
Yeah, which is very, very real.
Very real. But you're not saying, but that's it. That's, bad luck, guys. You know, never mind. But we can stay on top of it. But, you know, this is you now.
Yeah.
So, of course, especially as a child, if you're told that, well, you're going to shut down, aren't you? You're going to be, well, there's not really much, I don't have many prospects, so I'm just going to sit in this box, you know,
and what have you got to look for? Again, go back to all the, you know, how we have to have positive things to get into that positive perspective. We have to be able to look at the future, and we have to be able to see the future as being positive. How the hell can you do that when you've got no hope, when someone's telling you your future is always going to look like this?
That's right.
It's no surprise you can't get out of it.
Exactly, like when we say about the manifesting. Well, how can anybody who's told those things manifest anything good?
And Bex, you know, again, I've had so much experience with all of this. Obviously, I've had the experience of being in the medical industry, and so I understand from the medical point of view why you're being told this, and I do not blame the doctors. They are just doing what they're told, and they're trying to help because they want to help people. But that's their box that they're in. So I get that. I also at 20 was told, we're really sorry, you've got this back condition. It's going to get worse and worse as you get older. There's nothing we can do for you. You can only have surgery if the pain makes the risk of you being paralyzed or need a colostomy bag be worth it. Off you go. Good luck. Live with the pain because there's nothing we can do. So I have experienced that as well. That was when I was 20. I'm 40 now, and I have lived with pain, but I lived until a year and a half ago. I lived believing that my back was going to get worse, and I would, every time my back was bad, I thought I'm one step closer to being in a wheelchair when I'm 50, and I'm not going to be out. I'm going to be crippled with pain. It's awful, and it doesn't give you the drive to or any hope that you could be better. You can't visualize it, because if you've been told by doctors who know what they're talking about that you are never going to get any better and you're going to live in pain for the rest of your life, you believe it.
And you're going to tell your
body that, right? Exactly. So when I started learning about hypnotherapy and the subconscious mind and how we do create our own, we can heal ourselves and we create our reality, I started thinking differently about my back. I started going to bed visualizing my back and my spine healing, moving back into place. And I'm telling you, not long after that, I went to see a doctor and he told me your back is healing itself. And as you get older, you're gonna have less and less pain. I was like, what?
Can you believe? You just can't believe it, can you?
And so again, like I said, I've experienced this firsthand. I've also experienced mental illness firsthand. My very close family members have suffered with mental illness. I've lived with it since I can remember. I know the effects of it. I know the effects of it on family. I know the effects of it on the person. I know. And so this is, again, I think probably why I'm so passionate about it. And going back to this whole, people who are dealing with mental health issues and like, you know, like Harry, who want to be told that there's a fix and that someone can fix them and then go to the doctors and hear what they, you know, hear, also end up feeling really frustrated, angry, hopeless, because the doctors can't fix them.
Yeah.
So they go to the doctors thinking that the doctors will be able to fix them, but the doctors can't, because the doctors can't fix them with medicine, because the problem doesn't need medicine. The problem needs you to look into yourself.
Yeah.
And so this is where it comes back to being able to step out of victim mentality and understand that when you have a mental health diagnosis, nobody can fix you. I remember having this conversation with you when you said, when I was saying about Harry, and I said, you said to me, what did Harry say? Like, I want someone to help me. And you went, nobody can help you. You actually said that to him, didn't you?
That's
nobody can help you. Yeah. And like, that sounds like a mad thing to say, doesn't it? But it is true.
That's where I got to.
Nobody can help you.
No one can.
No one can.
Yeah, no one can help me. And I said, I just had a realization, and I was like, yes, nobody can help you. And that was true. Like, we tried. We've gone everywhere to try and get help. Yeah. So he was right. No one can help him apart from you. But of course, he's not ready to accept that yet. No. Some people are, which is amazing.
Some people are. And it's a journey. It is a journey. And this
so
is why
frustrating, isn't it?
It's very frustrating. And this is why this kind of conversation will be very triggering to people who are in that kind of state of mind, this victim mentality mode where they are out of control and the external world is controlling them. But my goal when people come in to see me is to explain this view that I have to them and the experience that I have, and tell them that they are the only ones that can fix them. Now, people, that doesn't mean you can't have help. Of course, people can guide you.
You're supported.
I'm there to help.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm not healing anyone.
No.
Because
we're all willing it, we're all wanting it.
Yes,
but
and
we
support
can't do
you
it.
when how you're feeling, but nobody can do it. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. It's like
I like that one.
But it's so true, isn't it? And that's why I won't work with people who I can see are not ready to take on the responsibility for themselves. Yeah, because I know that I am not doing the work. Yeah, I'm a very good guide. I'm very good at guiding the information out that they need in order to be able to heal themselves. Yeah. But if they don't want to do something with that, then it's a waste of their time and my time and their money. Yeah. But what I'm doing is, even though it feels really uncomfortable to say this is on you, but I am empowering them. I want to empower everybody who needs to hear this to know that don't wait for anyone to help you. But you absolutely. So if you're sat there and you're just, you have been diagnosed with a mental illness, or someone you know in your family or friend or whatever has, like, I just want you to know that you can fix it, no matter how hopeless it seems. No matter if you've tried all the routes in the health service, in the healthcare service, whatever that is, counselling, CBT, medication, seeing psychiatrists, psychologists, please look into yourself. Look into yourself. You are not broken. You do not even need fixing. You just need to understand yourself and understand what that child inside of you experienced and never received, what needs it didn't receive when it was younger. And that is how you will start feeling better. I've worked with someone who's got OCD, and this person has struggled with OCD for as long as they can remember. And they've had counselling, specific OCD therapies from other countries, you name it, they've had it. And it's medication, loads of different types of medication, and it's been very much up and down. They've had 3 sessions with me, and already they realise that the OCD isn't OCD. It's just a behaviour that they've learnt from when they were a child. And it's so simple. obviously I don't want to go into kind of like the details because it's private, but it's so simple. And this, like, the behavior that it goes back to and what they learnt about themselves and made it mean has caused this whole OCD spiral.
And just repeating the same thing.
And then you practice it and practice it and you get better and better at it. And in 3 sessions,
amazing,
6 hours.
Wow.
The results have just been incredible. And listen, and I'm not saying, you know, that's it. After you finished in the program with me, boom, you're done. But I mean, sometimes, yes, depends how much work you've done before, how quickly you can integrate it, how willing you are to just do, you know. But again, there's no time limits here. This is a journey. Everything happens in the right time. But when you do this work, and when you do the work that we do in the program that I've created, you get that understanding of yourself. You get that clarity. So let's just take OCD for example. When you are doing all these behaviors, like whatever they are, you know, let's say just turning the light switch off, stuck in a routine of turning the light switch off over and over and over again, or having the same repetitive thought and getting stuck in that thought cycle and not being able to get your mind out of it, you're just like, why am I doing this? It's like cloudy. There's no clarity. You can't understand why you do that. It's just who you think you are. Again, it goes back to what I said at the beginning. You have created this identity of yourself, and you cannot see any other way out of it, which is why it's so important to get outside help, so you can see what you can't see. You can't see your own blind spots. You need someone to help you. But then when you see that, and then you revisit back to the events, you know, using the hypnotherapy that we do, and you go back and you see the event that happened to you as a child, displayed out to you so clearly as to why this behavior and this belief about you first started, that all becomes so clear. And it's like the fog gets blown away and everything you have clarity. And that doesn't necessarily mean that from that point you're done. But when you understand why you're doing something and you have that clarity there, you can then do something about it.
Exactly.
And that's when the work starts. You just keep practicing, doing something different. Your brain your subconscious mind is working in the background to rearrange all those neurons, that connected pathways, to say that, oh, I believe this, so then that means this happens, and I do this behavior and I have this thought. And it starts rearranging, because at the same time, we're reprogramming your subconscious with the hypnosis to say, like, no, you are good enough. And because you're good enough, you're going to put yourself out there. You're going to have confidence to be able to do this. And you're going to then take a leap out of your comfort zone, because you have self-belief and and you start rewiring your neurons. And you create a completely different identity. And when you do that, you no longer are the person who has a mental health illness. You've changed that identity. No identity is fixed. I grew up thinking that your identity is who you are, and that's who you're stuck. That's who you came into the world as. That's who you were born as, and that's who you'll die as. I truly believe that, and I think a lot of people, most of us, walk around thinking that. And doing this work, I now know that is not true at all. Your identity is so fluid and it is completely under your control. And a mental health diagnosis is just an identity that's been created by you because of your past experiences and what you've made that mean. I know I keep saying this, but it's just so that's it. That's it. So if you want to change it, all you have to do is figure out why you created that identity, what beliefs that have formed. Understand that those beliefs are not true, because that's a belief. You think a belief is true to you. A belief is what you is the truth. But when you realize that, oh, it's not the truth, and I see why I came up with that belief, but that's not true. Well, then you get to say, well, what belief do I want? And then you start creating that. And obviously there's a lot of work that we do and that you have to do as a person to help yourself, and everyone's different. There's always different things that have caused these mental health illnesses. But as I said, every single person that I've come across with them they're all different, because we all live different lives, but they all stem from the same thing, and that is, I am not good enough.
Yeah.
I am not lovable. I'm different.
Yeah.
And then everything stems from there. I mean, this I'm not good enough one, everything stems from that, really, to be honest with you. But this I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy.
Yeah.
So much comes from that.
Oh my God.
And it will always come down, it looks different in everybody's experience, but that's what it comes down to. Right. I don't do anything different. That's what I work on with every single one of my clients.
Well, when I think of Harry, that was, he had no self-worth, none. And you think if he could just have some self-worth, other things will happen for him. But it's like, how do you get that? This is where someone like you comes in, and what the doctors can't tell us, or the psychologists don't teach us. They couldn't give him any self-worth. Where'd you get it from?
Exactly.
But it all seems to stem from that, doesn't it?
In my experience,
I mean, you have to get down to that through all these other things that are snowballing you into this chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you hit rock bottom, it is your self-worth, because without that you can't do anything, can you?
No. And so many of us are walking around thinking that we're not enough.
Yeah.
So many of us. But probably all of us. And if you could just understand that I'll just go back to the beginning from what I said, and how I see everybody as this perfect glowing ball of light that have just had layers, like an onion almost. Yeah. Like layers and layers put on top of them.
Yeah.
And some of us have got more layers than others, which is why it might take me longer to peel back those layers, for some people than others.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't matter. There's no time. It's not about, a rush of time, because actually when you come to understand, and this is what my clients realize very quickly when they work with me, is that, oh my gosh, I am in control, and there is hope, and I can change. You kind of almost let go of the time, because you know that everything has to happen in the right time.
Yes.
You have to
and
learn.
That's what you show them.
Yes.
That's so important, isn't it? Because, we just want to go like this,
don't
we?
We all want a quick fix, especially in this society. Like this time, everything's so quick to us, isn't it? You want something, you order it on Amazon, sometimes you can get it within an hour.
Yeah.
We want everything to be that way, don't we?
Yeah.
And it's not.
No.
This healing journey is the biggest thing you can do in your life.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you can do this work, this healing work, and it doesn't mean you have to do hypnosis.
No.
I'm a hypnotherapist. I believe in hypnotherapy. It's my thing.
Yeah.
But there are other ways to do this work.
Yeah.
But when you go on this healing journey and you start understanding yourself, it is the best thing you can do, because everything else comes from that.
Yeah.
So you can't expect it to happen. You've been practicing your behaviors and who you are for your whole life.
Yeah.
It's decades for most people listening to this. You can't expect to just change it and have a quick fix in a few months.
No.
Now, listen though, you can have massive, massive changes in 3 months.
Yeah.
But by that time, when you do that, you realise, oh my gosh, the work is never done.
That's what I was going to say.
And then it opens up you to a whole new world, because you're like, well, I don't want to stop now.
That's right.
I can keep going and going.
But that's what you've already given them. Then you've given them the, the tools to carry on.
Yeah.
And continue, because it is never ending, isn't
it?
There's
never
always
ending.
Something.
But the more you do it and the more you're practicing it, you're now practicing that kind of like positive perspective. You're practicing having those beliefs that I am good enough, that anything is possible for me, that I am smart, that I am lovable, that I am worthy, that I'm confident, that I can trust myself, that I am the most important one, and then everything else comes from that. Which is a tough one for a lot of people, especially women.
Yeah.
But when you learn that and you see the effects, then you just can't help but do it. You just want to do it more and more.
It's a bit addictive, isn't it?
It is addictive.
Yeah, because then sometimes you come at the angle where it becomes quite fun.
Yeah.
Like we're sort of pretty clear now, aren't we? So then when you taught me, if something's triggering you, there's something there. Mm-hmm. So instead of just ignoring it and distracting yourself, feel into it and it can be quite fun to be curious,
and
figure out where that's come from, because you don't want it.
No.
You don't want to feel triggered.
Well, and also it's a chance for you to level up, isn't it?
Exactly.
You know, it's like, something's coming up here that I can work on. Yeah. Brilliant. Let's have a look. Let's see what it means about me, because it's always about you. It's never about anyone else. But again, going back to, mental illnesses, diagnoses that we were talking about before, I just want to...
It's the hope, isn't it? Giving hope. It's not
who you are. No. You are not your diagnosis.
Mm.
And while, like I said, while it is really helpful in a lot of ways to have a diagnosis, for you to be able to say, oh, well, this is why I am the way I am.
Yeah.
Actually, that's not helpful. What can be helpful is if you... Let's just take ADHD now, for example. If you identify with the characteristics of having ADHD, which I personally believe a lot of ADHD is just trauma. A lot of symptoms of ADHD is trauma. Mm-hmm. My belief. But if you identify with a lot of ADHD symptoms is trauma. But I also believe that people who have ADHD, and they don't have ADHD because ADHD doesn't exist in my opinion, but potentially have the same type of brain, let's say, they have the same type of brain. I believe those type of people are potentially more sensitive to energy.
Yeah, I would say so. My
psychic, but let's not call it psychic, because then that makes people go, oh, but their brains are differently potentially wired in certain ways, not because they're different or because there's anything wrong with them, but people whose brains are wired in a way that has given them a diagnosis of ADHD, they just appear different and that they don't fit in because they don't fit in with our society as it is now. For example, a child who has an ADHD brain, let's just call it that, they have come into this world as doers, as creators, as creatives who need to move, who need to do things, build things, explore with their hands and their senses. They are not built to sit down on a carpet and listen to story time. That is not how they learn. And told not to move. They have to move their body. That's how they're wired, right? In caveman times, they were probably the hunters, the ones that went, the protectors, the ones that learned, oh, this is how we build a hut. This is how we build shelter. Because they were doing things. Right? If we didn't have them, we wouldn't be alive. we would have died out.
It all came from that brain.
Right. But now, because of our society and how we're all, this is what we do in school, and this is what we do in work, and this is the rules that we have to follow. Those people with the ADHD brain, which isn't an ADHD brain, it's just a brain that's wired that particular way. That's who they are, and then they appear to be different because they don't fit in. And so then again, this is part of the identity. Those children will now grow up being told that there is something wrong with them. They have a disease. It's called ADHD. And you have to go on medication, and this is how you're going to be, and this is how you're going to have to suffer. You're a naughty child, blah, 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 all the rest of it. Now, again, I want to say, as a child, it's helpful to have a diagnosis because you need to have that in order to help them get through
the education
system.
You won't get any help without it.
Now, and appreciate, and some children might need to have medication potentially. I do think there's a lot about diet and lifestyle, and if you have this kind of knowledge, you can help them process their emotions, but that's the same with all children. I think all children need to be taught how to process their emotions because we weren't taught it, and it's only now that our generation is starting to understand this that we can parent our children in different ways, and I think that's going to really help with this whole unmet needs and the trauma and the nervous system that causes the problems that we then see with mental health diagnoses in adults. I feel like I'm ranting. I'm not ranting.
No.
I'm just really passionate about it because I do understand both sides. I understand that it is helpful to have these diagnoses, and especially in children, that you need.
And it helped Harry, didn't it? You know,
yes,
it helped him realise it actually probably made him feel like there was nothing wrong with him, actually. So, because for him, he was masking. So we're thinking, oh, he's, you know, no one thinks there's anything wrong with him, but he's thinking, I'm different.
Yeah.
And he said the words to me, he's like, Mum, I'm different. I know my brain works differently from other people's. So it was him that felt different. So when he got the ADHD diagnosis, it was a relief because he was proved right, because this is what he was shouting at everybody, and you know, people didn't believe him because he was so good at masking it. But that's when he got stuck in that box. So it was great for that short space of time for him to understand himself and go, oh, I'm not going mad. I knew there was something wrong, and now I can let that go. I'm not fighting a losing battle now. Someone agrees with me. But now what he's done, he can't see out of that box. And and like you said, he thinks that's where he needs to sit now. And I guess I'm hoping with age, he'll get older and realise, you know, he'll listen to something like this or someone like you one day and realise there is another way. Because at the moment, you can't get that through to him.
No, he's not ready.
No.
But the thing is, you've just said the one of the main beliefs that I said I work on with people, and that's I am different.
Yeah.
Because everybody feels different, and this is a limiting belief, and this is where I have a little bit of a problem with the whole diagnosis, because now his limiting belief of I am different has been confirmed.
Yes.
And he's not different.
No.
We're all different. We're all different.
Exactly.
But we're all the same.
Yeah.
You know, and this is where it gets very...
Oh, it does. It's messy, isn't it?
It's messy, but also what I'm really passionate about as well is that, you know, like we can all, I can tick off a load of stuff on the ADHD boxes, you know that. But I think there's also a certain, yes, I did feel different as a child. Yeah. But I liked being different.
Right, okay,
So...
it worked for
me because I liked being different. I embraced being different. I was comfortable in being different, whereas a lot of children aren't. So I'm grateful that I did make meaning out of being different as being good. Yeah. But what I did is, like, my differences, which could be called ADHD traits, I harnessed them. Yeah. I used them as my superpower. Yes. I didn't see them as a negative because ADHD is a superpower. The way an ADHD brain is wired is a superpower. But as with anything, there is a scale. You can have too much of a good thing. So let's take, for example, for me, one of my ADHD traits is my intense obsession and focus. Yeah. Okay. So I can harness that to use it to learn everything. Yeah. I love learning. And so when I become obsessed, like I became obsessed with all of this world, I harnessed it and used it so that I could learn anything, everything about it. Yeah. And I had put all my time on it, and I absorbed myself in it, and it made me good at what I do. Yeah. But it goes over the other side, and then I can't shut down. I can't shut off. I get overwhelmed. Yeah. I get burnout. Yeah. I go into overthinking. I can't relax. But I've always been quite good for the most part. I have my times where I let it go too far, as you know, but I can pull myself back from that. Yeah. I can go, oh, you're doing that thing again, Tasha. You're going to have to pull back, calm down, let it go. Yeah. Just relax, go do something different. And I'm not saying that's easy. It's hard. And it's always been a hard struggle for me, but I can do it. But I'm telling you, if I hadn't been able to do that and I keep going down that route, I'd be mentally unwell. Yeah. Yeah. You know, there's loads of things that I have been able to do that I have been able to harness. But I think that this is the problem with a lot of people who have mental diagnoses as well, is that they don't know how to use on that scale. They don't know how to use it as a superpower to harness it. They go down the other way. Yeah. And then it's only a spiral from there. Yeah. It gets worse and worse, and then you get stuck down that hole where you then can't see a way out, and then it becomes a whole big thing.
Yeah.
Then you have all the other symptoms of the mental illness. And we have mental illness diagnoses, and everybody, can be put into them because we're all humans. And there's only a certain number of things that we can experience and believe about ourselves. And those people that see it that way will be put in that box, in that mental illness. Those people that see it this way will be given that mental illness diagnosis. And those people will be given that diagnosis. Or these people will have managed to control it a bit better and they won't have a mental illness diagnosis, but they're still guaranteed suffering with the same things these people are, just not on such a big scale because it hasn't spiraled into something.
Yeah.
So,
and if only there was something for these children, whilst they're waiting for, well, like you say, the medication isn't always the answer, but instead of just leaving them on these waiting lists, if they could be being shown how to use these, like you, luckily you naturally had the ability to focus on the positive things about it and harness that. If only for these children who are left waiting for years to be seen to, could be being taught that, what you already knew, instead of just left to fester. And, parents can tell them till they're blue in the face how wonderful they are. I've told mine every single day how amazing they are. So it's not that.
No.
They need someone else. They need some kind of program like you're doing now for the adults, but for kids. Yeah.
And I'm telling you now, I would do the same thing with children.
Yeah.
Well, I've done it. I have with children. The children are better. Children are better at it. I'll be honest with you. And they'll, if Harry was in the place where I would be able to do it with him and he'd be open to it, seeing that could be a way to help him.
Yeah.
I would do the same thing with him. He'd go back to when he was a child. There'd be an experience there where he learned something about himself. And he would see why he would understand why. This is the point. You understand why you feel the way you feel, and therefore you can do something different. When you understand yourself, that's it. That's what you need to do. But I feel like we've been talking for probably quite a long time. We should probably cut it off. But I could talk about this all day. Maybe we need to do a bonus episode. But as we call this episode to a close, I just want to reiterate again. You are not, whether you had a mental illness diagnosis or not, but if you do, you are not stuck with that. That is not who you are. You are not broken. You don't even need fixing. You just need to understand yourself, to reparent that inner child of yours, and to understand why you are the way you are and what beliefs it is that you hold that have got you to this point. And you can do that in so many different ways. If you would like to know more about how you could do it with me, then please contact me. Be happy to have a chat with anybody who wants to talk. But the most important thing is that you're ready to do that. You're ready to face. Because the thing with mental illness as well is one, you said, this kind of victim mentality where, in the nicest possible of ways, you don't think that you just want someone else to save you. It's not like you can't do anything about it, which comes hand in hand with the other reason why a lot of people with mental illness don't actually seek help in this way. Well, one, because they don't know that it exists, but two, they don't want to feel it.
No.
They're running the very reason that they are suffering with this diagnosis that they have is because there are feelings there that they don't want to address because they're uncomfortable and they hurt, and they're doing everything that they can to run away and numb it, whether that's addiction, alcohol, food, shopping, binge watching Netflix, you name it, excessive exercise, whatever. You are running away from those uncomfortable feelings that you don't want to feel. And I would guarantee anyone with a mental health diagnosis like that, even ADHD, is feeling that way. So the scariest thing to do is to actually say, okay, I'm going to face this and feel it. It's the one thing that everybody is running away from, but it is the only thing that is going to help you and that is going to make you better. And I promise you, the hardest thing is to accept that and reach out for help. Then when you do it, the first time you do it and you feel it and you address it, as uncomfortable as it is, it feels amazing after you've done it. You feel lighter, you feel freer, things open up for you, and then you almost want to do it more and more. I had a client who suffered awful big T trauma, abuse, and she would come in and say to me, let's do this, let's do it again. I don't want to, but let's do it. Because she knew it was painful, but she's lived through it once. She doesn't, she only has to live through it here, sat in the chair, because she knows the benefits that she gets from it afterwards.
Right. She was seeing the results.
Exactly.
So of course you just want more and more.
Yeah. So that's all I can say to you guys. Please, and if you know anybody who is struggling with a mental, health diagnosis or illness, please send them this podcast. They might not be ready to hear it, and that's fine. But maybe one person is.
Exactly.
And then I'll be happy.
Yeah. Please.
And that's it. Oh, that was a heavy one.
It was heavy.
But not, because it's hopeful. You
Very
can do
true.
it. You can be. Let everybody. Let's shine. Let's peel away those layers and shine that perfect light that I know is inside everyone. Right. Okay.
So shine your light, guys.
So shine your light. Peel those layers and shine your light. And with that, we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.